Hi, I'm Kathy, and today I think I want to take some time to describe to you some of the steps I'm taking to be able to stitch out this beautiful pattern by Carly Porter to be bigger than my throat space. This pattern was designed, I believe, in an Innova software program that has a feature called drag and drop that QCT does not have. So how it's supposed to work is that you will sew these sections. The whole pattern has 29 pieces, and you start in the center and you sew out section 1, and it will stop. There's a built-in stop and starts. Then you can move your fabric, your fabric in between the rails, and their program will continue sewing, knowing where it is. And then you would go around counterclockwise. And so we do not have a drag and drop feature that is like that in QCT. So what I thought might work would be virtual long arm, except for that it won't work. A virtual long arm would split this pattern up into zones. Even though there are some stop and starts in here, it doesn't want to see the stop and starts. It wants to like split it off in completely straight sections. And you can see that that would just have how many jump stitches, I don't know, but way too many to deal with. So that wasn't going to work with QCT. And so if I want to stitch out this pattern bigger than my thread space, I need to think of another way. Carly was kind enough to send me the individual patterns. So I have the individual sections that I could stitch out. And knowing that they have a stop and a start to each one, I thought, oh, well, that's convenient because I could use this one if it stitches out and it stops right here. And if that's the start of number 2, well, then I can just put them in by stop and start, and that would work just fine. The problem is twofold. When I imported these from the QLI files, QCT did not import them as scaled. So I can only put 1 and 2 together if they're scaled the same. And there is no fault in this. Computer programs are what they are, and I don't know why QCT doesn't import them into the size as they're designed, but it did not do that. So I was going to have to think of something else if I wanted to do it this way. And what I decided I needed to do was just to stitch it out, which I did, and then I would need to measure these each piece. And I don't need to know both. I just need to know the height or the width of the piece, and then I would be able to scale it that way. And that is in fact what I decided to do, but that is in another video. Um, but the problem that I had, which I'm going to show you, is that I decided I would take the strategy that it would probably be easier for me to join these because what I discovered is that while there are stop and starts to each section. Unfortunately, the stop and starts are not right up on top of each other. And what I mean by that is like, so here's section 1, and if the stop is right here for 1 and the start for 2 is also right there, I can just join them. But unfortunately, that is not where the stop and starts are. And so that was not going to be a good way for me to try and join these patterns. And there is no regular interval. Some of them have a stop and a start that is close together, and some of them it might be as far as 2 inches. So it was going to be very hard for me to join these patterns. What I decided to do instead is it was to join them by like a row. So here's 21, 9, 3, 2, 6, and 14. So if I were to stitch out 1 and use that as like a guide, if I joined all of these together and at a time, and then this row right here, 28, 7, 15, and so on, like that, I could get it to fit in my throat space and put them together in that manner. But then I did have a difficulty even with that. And I did find a workaround, and I thought maybe I'd share that with you. So the difficulty came when I went to go and use PatternCAD, and you can use this right here to open a pattern as is. And when you do that, it should open scaled. So I did scale them. I did go into, once I got the patterns and I measured all those pieces, which I absolutely did do that. Then when I went to go open as is. This is the problem that I had. These are the ones that are scaled. It then imports so small that you can't use it. That was a big disappointment because I had put a lot of work into it by then. I was like, well, surely there's got to be, a workaround, and there is. And I thought maybe I'd share what that workaround is. So what I did was I used Select and Sew, and you will have to have gold for this because you need to use advanced placement or multi-placement. And let's just pick this very first one right here. And you can see that if you are using the 1-point placement, that it will come in as it's scaled right here. And so let's just check multi-placement. Okay. And we're going to select pattern. And I don't want to place that one again. So this was the first pattern. And so that's number 1. If I wanted to join it to piece number 2, I would select that next. And as you'll see, it is importing now as I saved it. It's the size that it's supposed to be in relation to this other one. And so I could try and join them inside Select and Sew. But I'm going to tell you that's very tedious, and you don't have those arrows like you do in PatternCAD, and that would be very, very difficult. So what I did instead is, let's just go ahead and do 3, is I imported all the patterns that I need for each row. And I think altogether that was probably six or 7 for this row. I can't remember how many. I think it was 6. Oops. And what I did is I saved it like this. No, I had all of them, of course, not just these 3. And you save your file just like this. And then you close out. And when I open up that file that I just saved in PatternCAD, now you will see, let's remove those nodes, that now they're not huge, but they're in at least a size that is manageable and that I can work with. And as a tip, I would recommend, I've already done this, that you, before you start putting it together, that you, oh, well, look, it even did that. You can remove any stop and starts that are not supposed to be there in it. And look at that, it did do that. So you have the option to remove those right now before you start working with it. So let's check for breaks. Yes, I want to remove that one. Not that one. Not that one. But I do want to remove that one. And I would say, okay. And then you can use this fun little control right here, select section, and put the nodes back on so you can see what that does. And you can select just this piece, nodes off, and I would scale it bigger. And you can move just that piece until it fits like it's supposed to. And because they're scaled, like it should be. And then when you are done with that, what you would need to do, you would put all your pieces together. You would then go to, you save it first. In case there's a problem, just save it first. But before you close out, go to quilt. And so what you could do then is you have some control here. I said that I had measured every piece. And one of the things I also did, if you will look for this other video, is I also measured the width of every section. So when I have all of these right here, I know what this width, I measured this right here, but I know how that's supposed to be, how wide that's supposed to be. And the same with every single one of these that I want to join together. I know what that width is. And so what that will allow me to do is to then put that in right here. Like that first row is supposed to be 30. So Again, they're not joined right now, and when in the real one, I have done that. I know that that width is supposed to be 30, and I don't need to worry about the height. It's going to calculate that for me. I just know that the width needs to be that. So then I would save it. You would just save it. And you could do that with every single row. And as you will see, I'll show you, I have in fact done that for all of them. And I know that I'm going to stitch this out next at 30 inches. And then I will stitch it out again at 60 inches. And when it's 30 inches, I can have several of those rows together. And so I put them together like that and made sure that they would all fit together. When I do the 60 inches, I can only do like one of the rows at a time. And so since I was working with it, I just did all those patterns together like that. But that is how you can work around when you have a problem with sizing, or when PatternCAD will not let you open up something that is big enough for you to work with. So I hope that this explains a little bit as to how I'm putting these patterns together, and that it helps someone out there, because, you know, knowledge is valuable and we should all share it. So thank you for watching the video.